I would now like to introduce our distinguished speaker for today, Dr. Basavaraju R Shreshta. As the driving force behind GRAM, Dr. Basavaraju has transformed it from a mere idea to a nationally recognized public policy research institute. With a rich tapestry of experience spanning public policy, skill development, livelihood, and youth development, he's made invaluable contributions at both grassroots and policy levels. His leadership at GRAM resulted in 70 plus research projects, global partnerships, and pioneering academic courses. Dr. Baswaraju's advisory roles have shaped policies across sectors, from child labor elimination to skill development in Karnataka. A visiting fellow at Cornell University and a beacon in the realm of development studies, join us in welcoming Dr. Baswaraju as he shares insights on youth democracy and development change stories. A
Yeah,
very
thank
warm
you.
welcome to you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Suminaji, for the warm welcome and that introduction. It is my privilege to share my thoughts in this August platform. So, Changemaker series, actually. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for all the participants and potential participants who will be joining probably in time to come. So, for this session. Today, I'll be talking about mostly from my research as well as experiences. Having primarily, I'm a practitioner, having worked and being working with people at the grassroots, and as well as a researcher. So some of it I have to as a researcher present the problem with evidences and in a convincing manner. But I'm not only discussing the problems today, but I'm also kind of sharing you the possible solutions, the best practices, are some of it we experimented to solve some prevalent issues at the grassroots, which I'll be sharing with you. I was actually sharing about that the today's whatever the little thoughts I'm sharing with all of you is mostly from our grassroots experience working with youth, and as well as recently Graham had an opportunity to be a national coordinator, and I personally had an opportunity to lead that entire working group as an India coordinator on democracy, kind of trying to connect a grassroots experience working with youth, some of the research and evidences you find from other studies, as well as plausible and possible solutions, which we'll be sharing through our experiences, as well as some of the international the perspectives we have gathered in the G20, C20, the platform. So that I'm gonna share with you today. Uh, yeah, let's first spend some time in understanding how are youth participating vis-a-vis our political participation is concerned, civic engagement, etc. The recent India Youth Development Report 2017 shares some of this statistics, which says the political participation index of youth is 0.4, and the civic engagement index is further dismal, which is 0.1. When it comes to youth work index, it is 0.5, little better. When it comes to youth health index, it is further better, it is 0.6. And youth education index is 0.5. And youth social inclusion index is 0.7. What is most concerning is their engagement politically as well as in terms of civic issues. So what I mean by civic issues, it could be a simple thing right from their engagement in NCC, NSS as a college students, as well as engaging socially when they go on progressing in their academic as well as career life. So political participation, be it participation, some of the very minimum thing taken for constructing this index is their voting percentage, the participation of youth in political positions, etc. But if you consider probably their participation in Ward Sabha, their participation in Gram Sabha, such kind of true political participation activities, I think the statistics is further disappointing. But even considering their vote percentages as well as their participation in contesting election, etc., it is coming as 0.4. According to census 2011, so the youth between the age of 25 to 30 is 11% in our overall population. But when it comes to youth in Lok Sabha, in the similar age group, it is only 1.5%. It is not, as you can see, it is not proportional. So, no, and youth within the age group of 25 to 40 population is 25% of our population actually, but youth population no, representation in parliament, if you can consider, it is only 12%. That means youth opportunity for youth to participate in politics also is not that available, kind of, on our country. Probably, perhaps the situation may be same for other countries in the world. So what do you mean, especially when it comes to youth and democracy? Some of the major challenges what I'm sharing with you all today is not just the what the challenges are in India is facing, but the challenges experienced by the youth in accessing democratic processes worldwide. Now, some of the issues we have come across coming, concerning with youth and democracy is it's more of their awareness than communalism, the lack of press freedom, erosion of democratic norms and political polarization, as well as the absence of democratic government in some of the nations has led to the limiting youth participation in a healthy democracy. Some of the factors like nepotism, dynastic politics, the gap between the eligible age of voting and the eligible age for contesting the office. So, in our own country, you may, you might be knowing the eligible age to vote is 18, but eligible age to contest is 21. What is the rationale? We need to figure it out. Whether is there any rationale for it? Whether it is simply decided? How is it? Lesser interest of women youth in politics compared to male youth, negative perception of student politics. In fact, if you can look back, many leaders, the national leaders, have kind of emerged out from the student politics in our country as well as probably in other countries also. But there is growing negative perceptions of student politics, and poor political education and religious and class divides are also hindered meaningful youth engagement in political system. Coming to the changes required, the some of the changes we need to initiate in the while for increasing youth participation in democracy is engage young people in democratic processes beyond voting. What right now understood as the participation when it comes to democracy, it's only limited to their vote actually, their participation in elections as voters. But it is not just voting is their participation in democracy. We need to think beyond that. We need to leverage technology to increase youth participation in democratic processes. For example, it could be using social media to facilitate a dialogue between young people and elected representatives. And what in our working group discussions also, both in the international webinars what we have conducted, as well as the domestic roundtables and discussions we have convened in India, the increasing demand for online voting system is actually emerging. So the suggestion is coming: online voting system can make it easier for young people to exercise their right to vote actually. Exclusive space in local development committees. For example, 73rd and 74th Amendment to the Constitution talks highly about decentralized government, both at the rural level as well as at the urban level. And when it comes to rural and urban level, there are ward committees, there are gram sabhas required to be conducted, as well as various developmental committees. But if you go and do a study on any of this development committee, be it school development management committee, be it Janarogya Samiti, when it comes to health, coming to water resource management, the water users committee, or food security. Coming to food security, you have a vigilance committees there, and the people's committees, a food security committee at the panchayat level. So there are hardly any youth participation. First of all, these committees are not resurgent and vibrant. But even wherever it is there, the youth participation is very limiting. It is not just voting, involving young population exclusively, providing them an exclusive space in these committees will probably, to view democracy through their an everyday lens. That is something important. Creating a safe space for young people to discuss and engage with democratic processes can yield a transformative effect. And education system, this is one of the thing actually, even whenever we had our continuous dialogue about democracy, youth participation, etc., what is we found mostly, or many stakeholders express this opinion, is there is less in our education system that encourages, that creates an effective platform for young people to involve. So it is important to have, in the education system should include modules on transparency, governance, civic values, and ethical practices to instill democratic values and competencies in the next generation. Training youth in civic education, aside from their school curriculum, will deepen their democratic involvement. In fact, the G20 countries should pass laws to develop basic content and benchmarks of achieving achievement for civic education. In fact, some of, I must while I expect for, I recommend these changes in the curricular or in the education system. Some of the changes happening, I think I should also mention the No School Bag Day, the curriculum developed in Karnataka. In fact, I had an opportunity to lead that process. Now talks about all these things like using the No School Bag Saturdays. So the one monthly, one Saturday required to be convened as a No School Bag Day, wherein all these civic issues and civic education is required to be imparted, not by through just a pedagogy, but creating an enabling environment for children to explore themselves, discuss, debate, and through activities, and as well as inviting resource persons from outside to kind of inculcate and impart these information and education at the school level. I think these are some, the encouraging changes are also happening, but it is important to kind of uniformly practice and ensure that these things are happening. Coming to the further, the changes that required to happen to encourage youth in democracy is, while offering civic education, schools and universities should also offer students exposure to democratic institutions. In fact, there are some good models which I can, which I quote from Sweden. The school curriculum includes lessons on the theory and the practice of democracy, wherein the representatives of political parties visit school, helping students to learn about the political system. So that's kind of some of the best case studies we have, which we can try, experimenting in our country and other G20 countries also. Lowering the voting age, establishing a youth ombudsman, and or as well as are including youth representatives in democratic decision making bodies are some of the examples of such innovative mechanism. In Austria, the voting age was lowered to 16 for all the elections at all levels, from both the federal to the local elections in 2007. So evidence indicates that such reforms is linked with a higher electoral turnout and also high levels of trust in the political system. Introducing student politics in university campuses is key in, in fostering a sense of participatory democracy and facilitating youth engagement in decision making and processes. Even at the level of schools, primary and secondary and higher secondary schools, the cabinets which is envisaged actually in some of the states, there is practice of creating school cabinets, and it should be fostered following an empowerment approach, not just establishing it on paper for the sake of establishing it, and respecting democratic processes and institutions should be inculcated from the school level and onwards. In fact, the right side of my slide, you can see one of the stories of change, which kind of pioneered by Gram in Karnataka. This is a statement made by one of the students who performed the role of convening the parliament as a speaker. Her name is Rupa, and I quote her statement. She daily asked all the officers, when I mean officers, it was not just the students participated, all the district level officers like a district collector, a DM, what we call in other states, as well as the superintendent of police, police, judiciary, education department, horticulture, like array of department were kind of made to participate in in the children's parliament, wherein she asked officers, how many of you have visited the government schools in the last 1 year? So, in fact, these kind of democratic platforms created at the school level and not only increases their participation in the democracy, but enhances their dignity, confidence, the leadership skills to actually openly talk and raise their concerns, raise their issues. Unfortunately, students have their many children have their many issues which are not being heard by the decision makers at all levels. So these kind of platforms create an opportunity to voice out their issues at the level. You can see a newspaper cutting also, which says how the parliament was conducted, and this parliament also resulted in solving many issues where the government schools were facing from decades in that one initiative. Like this, teaching democracy, engaging democracy is required to be not just through pedagogy but through practices, which can also inculcate various other 21st century skills amongst the children and youth. Uh, what another chain story? While we discussed about some dismalling statistics that youth are not participating in this country, but this is a story which contradicts. It's our own experiment we did during the time of COVID in Karnataka, wherein we formed. To bust the information kind of misinformation that was happening in the community during that time, we created ICANN group, that is Information Care and Network Group, in around 60 villages in the Mysuru district, wherein youth played the role of catalyst there. Actually, I must say, you can see youth taking their initiatives to create social distancing, share information, etc. They made their own WhatsApp groups to communicate what is the correct information, as well as played a key role in convincing people to go for vaccination and immunizations during that time. And as well as you know, during COVID, only electronic platform e-platforms were available for even for the patients to get in touch with doctors, as well as get connected to the hospitals for if they need any admissions in patient care. So but all those things required digital literacy. So not established, just establishing a digital platform will suffice and reach the development to the villages, but they require to be a digital literacy to connect the platforms to the users and avail services, and youth played that role. What I mean to say is, so while some of the statistics says the participation is not so encouraging, provided a appropriate platform and encourage them and motivate them, provide a clear structure, youth can play a very vital role in not only democracy but delivering democracy. What I mean by delivering democracy is development in appropriate way, what we consider as the features of good governance. Some of the youth-led initiatives that Gram as well as pioneered is Youth for Development activity, which we did, wherein the qualification for youth to participate in the 3-month long program was 10th fail. They should have failed in their 10th standard, and the objective of the program was to convert them as a catalyst for development at their own level, and many of them then went on progress to become the panchayat members, continued their studies and become a social entrepreneurs also. The project S we pioneered, which youth to lead education and sanitation in the district actually. So which you took a very vital role in creating that. And a youth for governance fellowship, which we are currently running, is to focusing on youth in colleges to be a kind of champions of governance and democracy, to influence their fellow students at the college and university level. So these things are required to be kind of more intensified and done. So, what are the outcomes we have found by engaging youth in development and democracy is their ownership and sense of belongingness, increased information and knowledge about the issues and the subject. More importantly, empowered them to be an effective stakeholder, not just as a participant in the process of democracy or development, but importantly as the stakeholders having their voice and ability to ask right questions and also join hands with the implementers, be it government, be it the local NGOs, to implement programs, and as well as more importantly, network and develop the sense of fraternity, which is fundamental to for fundamental for our constitution to thrive. And accountable governance and government, that is another thing. And inclusive society is something you will be able to find whenever we see youth participation in development and democracy. All of these things, if we can discuss, if our participants are interested to go threadbare. Uh, uh, Coming to governance, so what is important while we think of government, what is important is also need to think of governance. What I mean by governance, as it says in the good governance models, unless people at the grassroots involved, people who are all the stakeholders involved, so good governance cannot happen, and that requires a proper facilitation. This story I'm going to narrate to you probably give a glimpse of the governance, how it can bring change even at the grassroots level when we have an effective governance model in place. This is from a Daima Health and Wellness Center from Jharkhand state, which in the Koti district of Jharkhand. Actually, I had an opportunity to meet this esteemed lady who is sitting on the chair. You can see in the screen. Her name is Sylvia Pankaj, and she is just a daily wage labor in her village. And as part of our initiative, we were doing Janarogya Samiti project, JAS project in Jharkhand. So, wherein the objective of project is to strengthen Janarogya Samiti, make it more inclusive, make all the people from the all the appropriate people from the village to participate in Janarogya Samiti and take a stakeholdership in delivering good health services in their own health and wellness centers. And in one of the Jan Bhagidari event, wherein which talks about the social audit, what we normally have in the social sector, we practice. In one of the social audit, the Sylvia Pankaj was also there, and the local community health officer, the CHO, was sharing about the programs and the progress of our health and wellness centers, as well as communicating the concerns, some of the concerns or challenges they are having in the center, and one of which is quite essential for any health and wellness center to function appropriately, is hygiene, the sanitation and hygiene actually, wherein they were not having appropriate funds as well as human resources to ensure hygienity of the health and wellness centers. While a beautiful health and wellness centers was established, but there was no support to upkeep the health and wellness center in the desired manner. And she expressed that concerns. And the next day, the Sylvia Pankaj went to the health and wellness center and was approached committee health officers and asked her, "Hey, madam, where is the broomstick?" And she was surprised. "Why are you asking for broomstick? Come on, broomstick. Come on. So if you have any problem, let me examine. So I think you have come for a consultation." The Sylvia Pankaj refused. No, no, I've not come here as a patient today, not to seek any consultation. But you told yesterday that there is nobody to clean the health and wellness center, and I'm here today. And the CHO was surprised and she reacted, "No, no, I don't have any money to give you. I don't have funds right now to offer any wages for you." And Sylvia very calmly responded, "Did I ask you money? Or whenever I come here, will you ask for money? No, right? You provide me healthcare and I'm taking care of my health and wellness center." So this happened because there's a community participation, open platform created in that particular village for all the citizens to participate as a stakeholder and not just as a beneficiary or a recipient of services in that health and wellness center. So one of I know most of you know about the good governance, its features, etc. Unless the governance is participatory, we cannot have a good governance, and that's something we need to think about when it comes to changing the things what we have right now. And ways and means for participative governance, it is through people's development oversight committees. In fact, if you look at various developmental programs and policies we have in our country, there is a space for people to take part. But unfortunately, all these people's committees or people development committees are just confined, are made to confine to be on paper, not actually be on practice. It could be school development management committee or school management committees in most of the states we have, or it is forest rights committee, or it is village health and sanitation committee, Arogya Raksha Samiti, Janarogya Samiti, etc. Wherein policy wise it is wonderfully developed and the space created for people to take part, but unfortunately all these committees are hardly heard or known by majority of the villages actually. The panchayat subcommittees, there are no constitutionally empowered panchayat subcommittees are required to be there in each and every village panchayat, be it social justice committees, be it the infrastructure committee, etc. All these committees are required to be functioning effectively. But we know the story. Ward sabhas required to be effectively convened, and urban ward committees supposed to be there in all the nagarpalikas, corporations, etc. But we know how the challenges we have in making them as well as functioning there. Unless these platforms are strengthened and created, we certainly cannot have a participative governance. Some of other ways to engage people is public expenditure tracking surveys, citizen report cards, scorecards, social audits and committee monitoring, participatory budgeting, monitoring and participatory audits. All these things are also there, so required to be practiced. Some of the policy measures also required to encourage and foster youth participation both in democracy as well as in development is electoral literacy committees. I think most of us actually, even in the development sector, have not heard or aware of this electoral literacy club are required to be established in each and every higher education institutions. It is there in the policy, but not at all there in the practice. And collaborative efforts are required to make these electoral literacy clubs established at the college level. Student community engagement programs, other than just NSS and some of the courses, there are no opportunities. Unless we are doing an MSW, there is hardly any expectations for students to engage in community activities, etc. The social development or development internship programs and apprenticeship programs, probably a good idea to foster youth participation and engagement. We have a NEEM program, a national apprenticeship program, etc., which encourages people to career-wise to take part in corporate internships or in the industry internships. But there is hardly any space and scope for social sector internships. As I said, unless they are in the humanities subject, so taken humanities discipline, there are hardly any opportunity. And student governance council at all colleges, probably another good idea we can think about. Civic points or scores for encouraging and recognizing community services, we can think of wherever people take part in some of the civic engagement activity and the development activity. There has to be a scorecard having a civic points and scores to them, which is kind of give them sense of recognition, sense of appreciation for the youth. And mandatory youth gram sabhas. We have children's gram sabhas or narega gram sabhas right now, but there are no youth gram sabhas or ward sabhas, especially which is more required in the urban areas and more in collaboration with academic institutions, not just civic administration doing it alone, but in collaboration. If they make it that the colleges also take a equal partnership while discussing and planning the developmental issues, especially in the urban area. So that will certainly bring in more synergy between all these institutions as well as make youth to take part in the development. And strengthening stakeholdership, it could be ward involving ward planning activities. An academia, CSO, and ward committee can come together, work together, can to develop a city urban development plan. And youth parliaments presenting, convening a city level youth parliaments actually, so which enables people, youth to take part, as well as hone their leadership skills, and as well as present and participate in the some of the civic issues and development issues and challenges in the respective cities as well. And here, all the four players in the development are required to play an important and catalyst role for all this to happen. We as civil society organizations are required to play a facilitative role, engaging youth in development. A government need to take a necessary policy measures for all these things to happen. And academia is also required to engage with local self-governments more proactively, and corporate to support on youth-led developmental models. So not just to create infrastructures from our CSR sector, also what it can also focus on how we can bring more and more youth to be a stakeholder, and in sustaining the developmental efforts, be it initiated like either maybe it's an initiative of government or some of the corporates, it's required to be sustained. What we are finding in the field is some of these initiatives are excellent and being initiated appropriately but not sustained and continued. There's actually hardly any stakeholdership encouraged throughout the process. And while having all these things, some of the questions and concerns still I have in mind is, while it is somehow feasible to engage rural youth in development, it is not so in the urban areas. What could be the reasons that required to be kind of discussed? And how to transform youth energy from Instagram to in the gram, in the village. What I mean to say is how to transform that. So how to make that practice of youth to be it on social media. Not I'm not criticizing their participation and their engagement in social media, but how to transform them in a more positively, transform their engagement on the social media to the development. And as most youth are away from their villages, either they are there for their education or go to the nearby cities for their livelihood, etc. How to ensure their participation in governance in their own respective villages or respective ward committees. So that's something we may need to discuss and debate. Yeah, I stop here. Probably look forward to kind of any responses, questions we have, anything, and any suggestions and sharing from other participants. Yeah, is it how has the rise of digital technology and social media impacted youth participation in democratic processes? Okay, this is the question actually. Uh, yeah. Okay. So youth participation in the discussion, debate, sharing their opinions or ideas. Probably, I think there is an increase, but I see hardly any facilitation to kind of channelize their interest as well as involvement about development and democratical issues is missing. While their engagement is there to react to quick, the stories, whatever kind of emerged in that day's media is more vivid and vibrant, but coming to their participation in democratic processes. For example, I was sharing about their participation in Gram Sabha, but I don't know whether we missed in making technology enabling youth to participate in Gram Sabha or Wat Sabha. Youth are not taking interest in taking and making participating in Gram Sabha. Similarly, it could be in ward level issues, or when it comes to many policy suggestions also. I hardly see youth engagement whenever the government announced any policy, giving their responses, giving their opinions and ideas. I think there is technology platforms are established, but somehow facilitation is not happening to positively engage them.
Like you were mentioning about the youth participation in Gram Sabha and how various other government schemes work, I want to understand that how actively the if that also concerns the topic, Do we have do does the youth have some role to play in the Bal Sabhas also, Bal Panchayats also, that we have at village level, block level? Do they have some role to play there also?
Uh, See, as per the probably the expectation wise or statutorily, they don't have, because for the Bal Sabhas, the children within the age group of so and so, the given age group, they are required to be participants of Bal Sabhas. But there are hardly any role for youth. So, but there can be many potential roles that can be provided or assigned to youth, wherein youth should be made to be a facilitators of that WhatsApp, sorry, Bal Sabhas, etc. They can play a role. But what I was thinking, youth being one of the major populations, like we are increasing, having more and more youth population in our country. So, but there are no exclusive platform for them to raise their opinion, share their ideas and views. Actually, youth, either the technology and social media is providing them an opportunity to get the ideas from outside, get more exposures. That is sure. But whether they are contributing for their own community, they are contributing to solve their own issues. That's the reason I was sharing the ICANN experiment we did actually. So wherein youth play took innovative ways to share information, opinion, as well as support and services during the COVID. But there are platforms. What I feel is that platforms are missing. The facilitation is missing.
Understood. Agree. So, one more question that I have: how do you envision the future of youth-led initiatives in the realm of democracy and development over the next decade?
Uh, if I see as a researcher, see their political participation index, I'm really concerned. uh, Wherein the focus is thrust is more on uh, making them more educated, making them more skilled and employed is more. But unless they take part in democracy and development, even unless they take part in democracy, development can also cannot happen. That is the something is there. But what I'm also finding, at least after this new education policy, there is more and more discussion, more and more space for interdisciplinary courses. Even engineering students coming and taking some of the social, humanities papers, liberal arts papers, etc. That is kind of providing us an encouraging platform, encouraging milieu. I see more and more space and scope for youth to participate, but it is the responsibility of all the three major facilitators in development, which we call government, civil society, and academia, and supported by corporates. It is the responsibility to see how we make more and more youth to participate.
I think so. You've rightly shared that with the incorporation of this new education policy and the interdisciplinary approach towards academics, there will be, we can see some changes, although it's yet to be implemented to all the levels. But I also want to understand that how do you see, see, we are talking about sustainable development goals all this all the while now. It's we have this goal till we have these goals till 2030 we have to achieve. So how do you think, or do you think at all that youth plays a role in achieving these goals? Because I want to understand from you how many youth forums are talking about such development, are talking about sustainable development goals. How many youth? What is the youth participation? How much do you see youth participating at any level to promote sustainable development goals? What is their contribution? Uh, See, from where I come, I see a lot of organizations working toward sustainable development goals, but I do not see a lot of youth working towards it. The proportion is quite limited. So, any thoughts on that?
I completely agree with you, Sumina. Even my experience of working at the grassroots, working with the people, there are hardly any initiatives for youth to take part. Even some of them want to take part, but where? Who? Who is facilitating that? Who? Which platform is available? See, we have youth ministries and youth department in many states, but I'm sure most of the participants here will also agree youth departments have confined to mostly being a sports department rather than youth department actually. And the responsibility of anchoring sustainable development goals is also kind of rests with planning departments in many state governments, or when it comes to the national level also it could be with Niti Aayog or some such organizations. But how effectively youth ministry is involved, that is something major questions. First of all, there is a policy lacuna, number one. Second, coming to the process and practice issues, there are hardly any platform. And civil society, from the civil society side also, more and more civil societies, if I see in the last 1.5 decades, have confined them to be a thematic area specialist rather than working on governance and democracy. And of course, which is also neat, and which is also not seen much positively if some organization work on democracy and kind of governance, etc. But there's less kind of scope and attention or focus also found, kind of we are observing when it comes to civil society organization also to work on governance and democracy. So earlier when organizations were working to more on empowerment approach, there used to be like they create youth clubs, youth yuvaka sanghas, etc. But that is now coming less and less actually. So that is another thing I'm finding in the sector.
Sorry about the network lag. One more thing. So now India being the biggest democracy in the world and the largest and the most populated country in the world, we have a significant number of youth. So how do you think youth can contribute? Just want to understand towards bringing a peaceful environment together. Uh, do you think that they can contribute? The population of youth in our country must be the maximum because we are already the largest, the most populated country in the world. So, how do you think we need to empower them to bring about a peaceful and harmonious society in the next decade? Any
Uh,
thoughts on that?
See whether there is no alternative for youth engagement. So whether they can engage in contributing, there's no. I think that there's no alternative for us. We have to make them to engage in contributing to development, democracy, sustainable development goal, etc. We no, otherwise demographic dividend will only be in our dreams. Only a demographic divide is going to be a reality in case if we don't establish an effective platforms to encourage and facilitate youth engagement. That is there. So they are the only hope for us. They are only the way forward for us. Youth are the only hope and way forward for us. But I was doing a field work in one of the ward of Bengaluru actually, wherein we were trying to understand wherein there is a complaint received by the local school administrations. They were saying, unfortunately, this youth will come in the evening, use the school premises, they vandalize. It is very difficult for us as a teachers and students next day come and open the schools. For the first thing we may have to do is just cleaning the school every day. So that is really a nonsensical thing happening actually. And when we kind of try to understand from the youth perspective, why do they do why they indulge in those kind of activities? They said like earlier, the lot of those fields were available for us. We used to gather, we used to kind of play together, but hardly any fields are available in urban wards, urban levels actually. So the only fields available for us are school grounds. So we go there, we kind of use that for our purposes. And as well as unfortunately, like when good youths are also there, some of them are not so good at kind of not guided appropriately, so they vandalize the school premises when they go to the school field and use it for their play, etc. So there is but the moment when school think them, kind of we kind of started a new initiative wherein we started mapping which are all the youth in that community participated in sports activity. They kind of took part in various level competitions, etc. Then we said, ask them whether you can be a coach for students in that particular school. Come at last, at least teach them, because in many government schools they don't have physical education teachers. But to expect government to recruit all the physical education teachers, it takes the decades. So nothing will happen in every for all the schools now. So when we facilitated the dialogue and discussion between the schools and the youth, actually, many youth came forward and said, "No, we'll come and take part, as we support our schools, we strengthen our sports team in the schools, etc." See, that solved both the problem. That the vandalization started coming down. Youth started positively engaging with the schools as a mentors and coach for the sports activity, and they also started playing together. See, what I mean to say is, this facilitation required, platform required. We don't have an option to ask whether youth can take the role in democracy and development. They are the only stakeholders available for us to take the role. But what is missing now is this kind of facilitation, and somebody has to play the role of catalyst for these two elements to come together and make something.
I'm agreeing with you, sir. So basically, I was very interested in hearing from you because I come from this background only. I have worked with children and youth all these years, more than a decade, and fostering youth and investing in them is all that I understand. So, learning from you and your presentation and your thoughts really has given me another perspective to how to go about things, because I also feel the similar way that youth is the transformative force of the future. So, and you very rightly shared that they are the only stakeholders of the future. So, it is the onus is on us how we facilitate the change making, how good as catalysts, how good the role we can play as a catalyst in fostering them. So I think we have overshot the time a little bit, and the questions are coming in. So maybe some other time I can share the questions with you over email, and you can share those with me. Maybe you can respond back to them
Sure, I'll
if
do
that
that.
works.
Certainly, I'm very happy to do it.
Thank you so much, sir. I have a set of questions with me already. So I will definitely share them via an email. And thank you once again for such an insightful and informative session.